as I present to you my tier list for the 2025 NFL Fantasy Football season. And we'll start off with my QBs. We'll start off with my QBs. Now, how I made my tier ranking list is I didn't put the quarterbacks in any particular order in regards to like my ranking of quarterback from best to worst. I really just split them up into tiers. I don't think there's much difference between them in regards to one being better than the other. Well, let me put it, I guess there are, like, I do have preferred players over some others, but this isn't a video of top ranked quarterback down. I really don't see much of a difference in these quarterbacks when it comes to like drafting. So that's how I did the tier list. It's sort of just where I kind of see all these quarterbacks and running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends, and then I did a ranking of best stacks. So, but that'll probably be in a later video. Maybe I'll do a fantasy draft with this, a little fantasy football draft. So maybe I'll do a tier. Yeah, maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll unveil one of my tiers with the quarterbacks, and then we'll do a fantasy draft, and I'll draft in regards to that tier, and then that'll be it. And then later I'll come back with another video in regards to running backs and do the same thing, and then do a draft to end it. So maybe that's what we'll do, and see how that goes. Yeah, but before we do that, please like this video. If you haven't already, subscribe. This is an ASMR channel where we do just purely whispering content with majority gameplay stuff, like video games. A lot of NBA. With football season starting up, there's going to be a lot of fantasy content, a lot of football, NFL content, and probably some Madden as well. Probably going to do some Madden rebuilds here shortly. So if there's a particular team you would like to see me rebuild, let me know down in the comments. If there's particular fantasy stuff you want to see, as always, let me know down in the comments. And yeah, just trying to engage more with you guys and build a little community here. So with that being said, go ahead and jump in. So we'll start from the bottom and work our way to the top. Nothing here is going to be too much different, I'd say, but so we have 4 tiers for quarterback, and we have 20 quarterbacks on this list. So coming in for tier 4, we have Caleb Williams, Drake May, Michael Penix Jr., and Bryce Young. You know, I had to throw my boy Bryce in there. Yeah, these guys, I don't expect great fantasy things from these guys this season. The only one I think Drake May, Michael Penix, are my 2 that I'm like, I could see them being pretty good, and see them as being sort of sleepers. I'm curious to see what Drake May will do now that he has Stephon Diggs there. I think they bolstered that offensive line. Yeah, they used the first pick on their first pick on that offensive lineman, so hopefully protecting Drake May more. I could have moved him into tier 3, and I think that would have been justified, and I could see some good things from him. Michael Penix, it pains me to say this because I'm a Panthers fan, but I could see him balling out this year with Drake London, and I'm pretty high on Drake London. I think that might be a really nice connection. So Penix, I could see them more so being definitely tier threes. But they have to prove it. Drake May had some really nice games last year. Michael Penix's last game of the season, I think he was in the top 5 QBs, if not QB1, of the last week of last year. But and all these players, as you see, they're going later in the drafts. Bryce Young and Michael Penix are pretty much going undrafted, and Drake May is going in the 12th round with Caleb going in the 10th round. Now, Caleb Williams is another one who he might surprise me, but second year in the league, a new offense to learn, new head coach. I just think there's going to be some growing pains there that could hinder him a little bit in his quarterback play. And I could be wrong. I could be very wrong about that, and he might come out and show up and show out. But just my personal opinion, I'm not willing to take that risk with that. If it was a 2-quarterback league, maybe. But I personally wouldn't. And out of all the guys in this list, my targets would probably be Michael Penix or Drake May. And I know you might be thinking, well, if Caleb Williams is in a new offense with a new head coach, you can make the same argument for Drake May. And yeah, you very well could. At least I think too with Drake May, he has more of a rushing ability. There was a lot of times where you saw him rush, and he has that ability, which is great for fantasy. And I don't think Caleb necessarily has that. Or he didn't display it as much last year. So anyway, yeah. So that's my tier 4 ranking. Now in my tier 3, we have Jordan Love, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes, Brock Purdy, and C.J. Stroud. Now a lot of you guys might see Patrick Mahomes in this tier and disagree with that. I know a lot of people do. As you can see, I mean, he's going average to go in the 5th round. I'm just not a big Patrick Mahomes fantasy quarterback guy. I don't think he's going to put up the numbers to put you over the edge in fantasy. And that's not to say he's not a great quarterback or he's not going to do well in the NFL, because he is. But great quarterbacks don't translate to great fantasy football players. He could easily outplay this tier 3 ranking I put him in. I hope he doesn't, just because I don't like the Chiefs and I don't want them to do well. But I'm aware he could very easily outplay that and be much better. But I mean, he's projected to get 317 points this season in fantasy. But he was the quarterback 11 last year outside the top 10. And if I have a quarterback in tier 1 or 2, a tier 1 I want a top 5 quarterback, tier 2 I want a top 10 quarterback. And I just think there's other quarterbacks that are better than Patrick Mahomes in fantasy football wise. So yeah, if I did draft him, it would not be the 5th round, I'll tell you that. But guys like C.J. Stroud, great rookie season, didn't quite live up to it his 2nd season. But there were also a lot of injuries, so I think this year he's still got Nico Collins, he's got Christian Kirk, and then they drafted a receiver as well. So I think he'll be fine. I think all these quarterbacks in tier 3 will be fine. I think all of them will have some great weeks sprinkled into the season. They could have top 5 quarterback rankings multiple times this season, but I don't think it'd be enough to warrant an earlier draft selection. Now, for me, I like taking a quarterback late in my drafts. So there's a real chance I might end up with one of these quarterbacks on my roster, and I'm willing to take that risk to get other positions. And I would be content. I think last year I had Kyler Murray on my team, and he got me to the championship game. So you can succeed with these quarterbacks on your team. Brock Purdy, he's another one last year who suffered from a lot of injuries on his team. This year, I'm not convinced with that wide receiver room. But, you got George Kittle, who was tight end number 1 last year. With Brock Purdy there and Christian McCaffrey being healthy. And Ricky Pearsall having a full off season because, he didn't get shot this year like he did last year. I think that could be he's a solid bet, and so I would say in this group, my favorites are Brock Purdy and Kyler Murray. Just because for Kyler, he's got the rushing ability, whereas some other players don't necessarily have that. I don't think you're going to get the same amount of rushing from Patrick Mahomes or CJ Stroud that you would from Kyler Murray. They're more pocket passers, along with Brock Purdy. All these guys really, except Kyler's the only rushing quarterback in this group here, in my opinion. He's also the only one who finished as a top 10 quarterback last year. And again, with Brock Purdy, that was due to a lot of injury on that team. So I think Brock Purdy will be better this season than he was last year. Now going into tier 2, these are guys that if I draft, I expect them to finish in the top 10. And there's this is a bit bigger of a list, but you got Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, Jared Goff, Bo Nix, Dak Prescott, and Baker Mayfield. Now, some of these guys on this list, you might be wondering why. I think initially when I look at this tier 2, when I see Justin Fields, that's the biggest one to me that if I was watching this video, I'd have questions around. But for me, he only played like 4 games last season, and I think he's got a lot more to show than what he was able to last year. I could very easily see Justin Fields coming out and being a top 10 quarterback for this upcoming season. He's got the dual threat. He's got all the tools. He just has to work on his accuracy a little bit and getting the ball out a little faster. And I think he could do that here in New York. He's got Garrett Wilson, who's a great receiver. And I think probably... Who did he have? Yeah, I think Garrett Wilson's probably the best receiver he's had in his career. And he also played with Garrett Wilson at Ohio State, so there's some familiarity there. So I have a lot of upside on Justin Fields this season. And now if I had Justin Fields, I'd want a solid backup just in case he doesn't pan out. But I'm okay spending on Justin Fields and taking that risk. Another one is Justin Herbert. I feel like he's always in the mix. Like, there's always a lot of hype around him, and I know there was probably 2 or 3 seasons ago, I think it was 2 seasons ago, I was really high on him, where I thought he was going to be the best quarterback in the league, and I went all in on him. I mean, not all in, but my whole game plan was based around him, and it did not work out how I thought it would. And I still ended up doing pretty good that season, because I think I picked up a quarterback who ended up doing me pretty solid. But yeah, I think with Jim Harbaugh there, he's put a lot of more confidence in Justin Herbert. so the receivers around him and my confidence in them. I think if he had some better receivers around him, he'd be able to be a top 5 quarterback. But Ladd McConkey's got a lot of hype around him, so maybe that'll be a good duo right there. So yeah, and then some other guys. I mean, Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix, both had great seasons last year. Baker Mayfield was a quarterback 4 on last season. I don't see any reason to think he would regress. I know he won't have Chris Godwin for a good bit of this season, but he didn't for a majority of last season. And a lot of it does depend on Mike Evans' health. But I think if Mike Evans can stay healthy, I think Baker Mayfield will be right in there. Now, I don't think he'll have a top 5 QB finish. I do think he'll regress a little bit into the top 10, but I don't think he'll regress much outside that's why I don't have him. If I thought he'd be a top 5 quarterback, I'd put him in tier 1, but yeah, I don't see him having that same finish, but I don't think he'll regress too much. I think he'll still be good. Dak Prescott, he was quarterback 1 or 2 a couple years ago, and last year his season was cut short due to injury. So guys like Dak Prescott, they're not going to the 10th round, so you can wait on him and get him later and still have a top 10 quarterback in my opinion. So I'm very comfortable. A lot of these guys, like Justin Fields not going to the 11th round, Justin Herbert 9th round, and then Dak Prescott obviously the 10th round. All those guys you can wait on and get better skilled position guys, and wait on these guys. Now everyone's draft is different, right? You might have some guys who might be higher on some players, and it's always a gamble. You never quite know what, unless you've been playing with the guys for a while, and then you can kind of sort of pick up on their tendencies and what they're thinking. And then you might be playing with guys who are just very strict and we're going best available, or I'm looking at fantasyfootballers.com and just getting a list and just going based on that list. And I always find it more fun when guys do their own research, because then there's a little bit more of a shake-up in the draft, whereas if you're going with guys who are just very, doing what everyone's saying, then it's going to be a very boring, draft. It's like, well, why not just auto-draft at that point, But I say that now, and then I'm going to get in my drafts, and I'm going to be seeing one of the guys I want, who theoretically should fall to me based on the numbers, and then I wait, and then they don't fall to me, and then I get pissed, because I'm like, what? He wasn't supposed to go that early. You weren't supposed to take Justin Herbert in the 7th round. He was supposed to fall to the 9th. Things like that. But that happened to me last year, actually, with, I tried to do the stack last year with Marvin Harrison and Kyler Murray, and I got Marvin Harrison. I was one of the dopes that decided to take him, and I shouldn't have done. That was, sometimes when you make a draft pick and you're immediately like, oh, I just feel gross about that one. I don't like it at all. That was one of those where I fed too much into the hype around Marvin Harrison, and I ended up taking him like 2nd round, I think. Maybe it was the 2nd or 3rd. But he was my wide receiver 1, and my plan was to stack him with Kyler Murray, and everyone already had a quarterback, and Kyler was still there, so I was like, beautiful, I can wait another round, and I can wait on him, so let me go ahead and, I forget who I took in his place. It actually might have been Trey McBride that I picked up. I was going for the triple stack between McBride and Harrison, but anyway, one of those guys worked out. But anyway, so I took McBride, and then sure enough, it was like 2 picks before I was up again, and some guy took Kyler Murray as his backup quarterback, and I was pissed. And I'm like, it was one of those situations again where I was like, he was supposed to fall. Like, I was going to take him a couple rounds early. But in retrospect, it was nice because it added it, like, it threw a wrench in my plans, and you have to learn how to recover and whatnot. And so, yeah. I don't necessarily know where I was going with that, but anyway, I guess don't give too much thought into the ADP necessarily. Like, if you like a guy and you're really convicted about him, it doesn't matter where you take him. Now, obviously, if you're like really convicted on Evan McPherson and you take him in the second round, that's a dumb pick, right? But I think you guys know what I'm saying. If you really like Bo Nix and you want him as your quarterback, then take him in the 5th round. You know, and that's something that I'm always tempted by, because I always wait on my quarterbacks, but I'm always tempted to get those like big named quarterbacks, and I never really do. I always end up waiting, but there's definitely some temptation in those tier 1s, which we're going to get into now. So yeah, from this list, you know, Justin Fields is probably my sleeper pick when it comes to quarterback. I think he could be a league winner if he's able to put it together this season with Garrett Wilson. I think he could be really good. And then Jared Goff is just always consistent. He's always solid. I am a little worried with them not having Ben Johnson there and them having a new offensive play caller. There's a little worry, but he's been a solid quarterback, you know, a consistently solid quarterback the past 4 or 3 seasons. I had him as my quarterback when I won the championship. I think I drafted Justin Herbert that year, but before the year was up, I picked up Jared Goff off waivers, and he ended up helping win me the championship. So it wasn't because of him that I won the championship. I got to give that credit to Christian McCaffrey, but Jared Goff, a solid quarterback who can get the job done for you. Alright, so now for our tier 1. None of these names are probably going to surprise you guys. But there you have it. You got Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and Jaden Daniels. I think all these guys can be top 5 finishes. I would say the one I'm least confident in is Jaden Daniels, just because he hasn't done it more than one season, and typically when a rookie has a breakout season like he had last year, the next season defense has come back and have figured out the quarterback a little bit by that point. So you know, I'm not as high on Jaden Daniels as some other people. You know, I still wouldn't mind if he fell to like the 5th round. Then I'd probably look at picking him up there, but I don't know if I'd spend like a 4th round pick on him. That's not how I like to do it. But again, I'm always tempted to. I really like Joe Burrow. I started watching quarterbacks on Netflix, and man, I just want him to have a good season. I really like the hype around him, and I want it to be true. But the Bengals are one of those teams, they always start off slow, and yeah, I don't know. He's one that's tough to gauge. But I do like Joe Burrow. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, you can't really go wrong with either of those guys. They're going to put up solid numbers. They're going to put up big games. It's just, what are you willing to give up to get them? Because you're going to have to spend a 2nd or 3rd round pick to get them. Maybe they'll drop to the 4th round, but they're not getting past the 4th round, at least in my leagues. So what are you willing to give up to get them? But those 2 are great quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, he position ranked for 20. He finished in the top 10. He was the 8th ranked quarterback last year. His or not garbage time, but just an easy 6 points for a rushing touchdown by Jalen Hurts due to the tush push. I think something else with Jaden Daniels that I'm concerned about is what's going to happen with Terry McLaurin. Is Terry McLaurin going to be in Washington and be his wide receiver 1, or is he going to get traded and go elsewhere? I do think he will be there. I don't think they'll trade him. I think they'll pay him. But what's it going to look like? He's missing valuable time with Jaden Daniels right now, so how's that going to affect them? So that's my biggest concern around, not biggest concern, that's a concern I have around Jaden Daniels, is the time him and Terry are missing together right now. He's got Deebo Samuel, and I was really high on that when he first went there. And then, I think as many of you guys saw, there was a video that came out of him at OTAs or something, and he looked a little bit overweight, and that definitely had me concerned with what we're gonna see from Deebo Samuel. I can't decide if I want Deebo on my team or not. I think he could be utilized really nicely in Washington in that offense. I just don't know about his health and him holding up and whatnot, but we'll see. But anyway, I don't think any of those tier 1 quarterbacks are a surprise. I think that's sort of everyone. That's pretty much the consensus when it comes to tier 1. There could be some other guys that I, debated putting in the tier 1, but at the end of the day, that's that. So anyway, that's my tier ranking. That'll be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'll be back with another video to go through my wide receiver tier list and running back tier list, tight end tier list, and my favorite stacks. So stay tuned for those. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next time on 8th